person.
Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Come on in here. Come on in here. Because it's noontime. Noontime, my time. And it's the Noontime, My Time podcast. We've got a topic here today that it's not going to be a fun topic. There's so much going on in our lives. And it's happening for everybody. It doesn't matter what your social economic background is. Everybody's got a few problems. You might be having some family problems too. We're seeing a lot out here with the Simmons family right now. I don't know if you've heard about it, if you guys know what's going on. It's a whole lot going on, and it's not a good thing to see, but if we're going to take something from it, I think there's a larger conversation to be had. And so we're going to have it. Today's topic, toxic family drama. We got to talk about it. Absolutely. But before we get into that, I'm going to go ahead and run my intro, if you know what I mean. We got to run that. I'm grooving to this beat right now. Brought to you by Oren Cornelius. He keep me grooving, y'all. He got me grooving. He got me grooving so hard. I didn't even get to my video like I needed to get to it. Let me get this intro going, all right? Hey, everybody. It's MsTonya. How you guys feeling on this Wellness Wednesday? It's Wellness Wednesday, but we've got a conversation that is going to be a little difficult. It is. It's going to be difficult because we're going to be talking about those toxic family members. Because we all know our family dynamics can be both a source of joy, but they can also be an emotional roller coaster. And while we cherish the people that we love and we want to support all of the people that we love, some of those family relationships, they turn toxic. They leave us hurt. They leave us misunderstood. They leave us drained. And in this episode, I want us to have a conversation and let us explore some of the ways and talk about some of these challenges that we face within these situations, within these family situations. Because sometimes, you keep it quiet for so long, and I imagine it builds up inside of people, but we've got to find a way to find some inner peace. We must, for ourselves. But before we get too deep into the conversation, before we start talking about it, hashing it all out, let's do a little breath work. We're going to need it today. What I want you to do is inhale to the count of 4. And we're going to hold it for a few seconds. And then we're going to exhale. And we'll hold that for a few seconds. And we'll repeat that a few times. Now, you can close your eyes if you're in a place that you can do that. And I want you to do that if you're driving. Don't do that if you're driving. Don't do that if you're actually sitting at the desk. If you got your head pods on and you're taking a listen, we'll vibrate with us and listen. But if you can close your eyes, close your eyes. You want to take it a step further, put your hands over your heart and feel that. You are alive. That's you. Let's get into it. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. Hold that a few seconds. Inhale again. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. One more time. Let's inhale. Hold it a few seconds. And exhale. Yeah. Doesn't that feel great? It feels good, and I hope that you did do the breath work. I want to say hello to all of my good people out here, all of the beautiful souls. I want to welcome you guys back to another thought-provoking episode of the Noontime My Time podcast. It's Wellness Wednesday. I'm your host, MsTonya. Today, we're going to dive deep into a topic that many of us can relate to. Many of us can relate to this: finding peace with toxic family members. We see a whole lot going on right now in media all across and all within these internet streets, in these social platforms. We see a lot going on with Russell Simmons and the Simmons family, and it doesn't feel great to see this. It doesn't feel great to see any family go through this. It doesn't feel good to go through this when you hear what the young people, the children are going through. You hear the hurt in their voice. You see it. It's hurtful. And everybody has their side of the story. We don't know these people. We don't. But they put their business out here in these internet streets. I didn't do it. You didn't do it. But it does allow us to take a look at it. It does allow us to go into a larger conversation. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, if we can look at that and we can learn something from it, if we can have a discussion that means a bit more than just the actual gossip of it. If we can do that, that's what I want to do here. We're not being judgmental. We don't know all sides of the story, but we can have some empathy, we can have some compassion, and we can listen to people, because this is not acting. This is not acting going on here. I see we got Keep the Faith with Tori in the building with us already. She said, I'm here, D-Town in the building. Also, we got Kimberly St. Clair. She said, West Coast here, 9 a.m. my time. I'm working today, but I'm going to try to get in on this. All right. Thank you so much for joining us here for you this morning. And also, Keep the Faith with Tori says, oh my God, the buildup, if you're not careful. And she's saying that buildup, if you're not careful, that is about holding things in. Like, you know your side of the story. You know what's been going on in your life. You know what people have been putting you through. And you let them tell their story. You might be hearing things going on. There might be some false allegations about you. And you keep it inside. You show that good face, I should say. You show a good face on the outside. But see, the thing is, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know how people are. And particularly when it comes to celebrity. We know this to be true in real life. I mean, you don't even know what's going on behind the closed door of your next door neighbor. Yeah, they may come out and say good morning to you. They may be very kind to you. But are they kind to every member of their family? Are they kind to the people that they wake up with? Are they telling the people in their house good morning? Are they kind to their children? Are they kind to their grandchildren, their nieces? Are they their spouses? The children, the stepchildren? It looks one way on the outside. Because, we are a culture of people. We say, hey, what goes on in this house stays in this house. You've heard that before. So everybody's out with their smile on. They're making it look good. But we don't know what's going on the inside. And sometimes when we're holding that stuff in, it's unfortunate that it can come out in some very toxic and not so good ways. And I think we're seeing this play out right now with the Simmons family. There's a whole lot of stuff that has been out. Kimora Lee has done Snapchat. The kids have done that. They've done different things on social media. I'm not going to play anything from the children, but I will play a little clip here from Kimora. I think I want to do that right now. All right. Let me get it all worked out here for you guys. Let's go with it.
His life too much, and so I stepped in there to help adopt and raise that. So you guys know my kids. My kids have worked at the UN. My kids are ambassadors of the world. My kids speak multiple languages. Like I said, my youngest daughter is the youngest kid to graduate in recent history from an Ivy League school. You know, I'm a little upset, so I know I'm probably rambling and leaving out parts and jumping all over the place. I'm sorry. Y'all can hang up. I love you. I know everybody's going to be calling me later. But you all know that for sure that my kids are not brainwashed. So I thought that was crazy that people actually started to believe that, because I could see the messages and the comments and, oh, sorry. And sometimes people just want to have something to say, and I understand that too. So today, the whole topic, and I thought about people, all my friends in the industry, and who I could call and what media people I could talk to about this, and who do I go to talk about this. And I thought about this all the time, but I never really have, the right person, and it's never really come to me. So I just thought I'd turn on my thing here and say this. But for someone to imply that my kids are brainwashed because they honored the job or the duty that their mom fulfills on a daily basis, 365 days of the year, 24/7, is crazy. No one's brainwashed. You guys can go and see, no one's delusional. I have been a parent pretty much all my life. I was a very young, probably too young, bride. So I had these kids very early. And you guys know how much my family means to me, and you know how much my kids mean to me. And you guys know, all of you that know me absolutely know what kind of mother I am and what kind of family dynamic I have over here. I think it's very important for you all to know. If you look back in our history, I have always been the type of co-parent. We were actually very famous for our co-parenting abilities and, how we always put the good face forward and the good foot forward to the world. So you guys know that. If you pay attention to the time frame of things, you will see that some years ago, recently, this ex in question brought a lawsuit against me and my family, a completely frivolous lawsuit, where he accused me of all kinds of crazy stuff, like embezzling, laundering, defrauding, all these things. Again, everybody that knows me knows that nothing could be further from the truth. Clearly, I'm sitting right here in my home, right? There's no, none of that. I didn't flee the country. I don't run. I don't have to hide from anybody. I didn't commit any atrocities that I need to answer for, here or in the next life, at the gates, wherever I'm going to get. I don't have to do that like some other people. So if you pay attention to, excuse me, I'm a little emotional. But I get like that. So do my kids. So sorry about that. But if you pay attention to when this lawsuit was launched, it's probably a couple years ago, you'll notice that that's when all of these attacks started coming from my ex. You'll notice that that's when a lot of a barrage of crap started coming over here to us. You'll notice that the kids stopped over the past years, they stopped seeing their dad as much. And also, again, I have 5 kids, so I've always been an open book. All my other kids considered him to be at one point in time like an uncle. We were all very close. And that goes for all my baby dads, by the way. There's evidence of that. You can see them, on various far and few between events, but you can see them sometimes like on the red carpet, and you'll see one person with all the kids, right? We get along like a family, like friends, like whatever. So you'll notice that all of this down talking and all of this stuff started to take a turn around these past couple of years, I think coinciding with that lawsuit. But I just want to come and say, and I never get into this. I usually let people go and rant and rave. It's funny though how this particular person in question, because I could go in on a few of them one by one. But it's funny how this particular person, if you again go look back, you'll see on their page that they post all these pictures like we're together, like we're friends. They've even posted pictures and then said like, I just got off the phone with my kids. They sent me this great picture. None of that's true. So I just want to say I usually stay here and I try to be very supportive of my family. I've tried to be very supportive all the time of even my baby daddies. I've sat quietly through things and, just because I'm a mom, I've tried to, look the other way for things and turn the other cheek. And I don't know, I sometimes feel like some of those things come back to haunt you over time and stuff like that. So, I'm not really sure, but I've been through a lot. I've seen a lot. Again, like I'm sitting here with my kids in my house, not doing any of that. And so to have these constant attacks is just kind of crazy.
It's the Noontime My Time podcast. Family drama, toxicity within the family. That's what we're talking about today. It is Wellness Wednesday. Wellness Wednesday. And you want to know how we can have a larger conversation because we can talk about this impact. We need to be talking about the impact of some of these toxic family dynamics. Like what's going on behind those closed doors? How do these type of relationships affect our mental, emotional, and our physical well-being? There's a lot going on here. You can hear the emotion. You can hear it. I didn't play everything, but I played some. I see we've got Craig Boatwright here in the building with us. How you doing? Craig said, who to talk to? Try talking to a therapist. Sadly, there's a lot of trauma out here. Absolutely. I agree with you. I do agree with you. And I don't think there'd be anyone in here who wouldn't agree with you talking to a therapist. And it makes you wonder what makes a person get to a point and why they would make the decision to do an outing of a toxic family member on social media. Because I know with them being celebrity, I know that they had to think about some of the positive impacts as well as negative impacts and consequences of doing something like this. But that just makes me think like there had to be a lot of hurt here after being quiet for so long because there was a totally different face that was presented. Now, I can relate to something like this. Of course, the financial aspect doesn't play in my particular situations. And I don't even mean with one particular person who is a toxic family member for me, more than one. But not saying anything and just, presenting that face, being quote unquote the bigger person, trying to make things work for your family, for your kids. It takes an emotional toll on you. It really does. And I can't tell you why Kimora and her girls went this way, but I definitely hear the emotion. I hear the frustrations. And while venting on social media probably provided, the young people a sense of some relief, I don't know. I can't say that. But I feel like maybe they felt they didn't have anywhere else to go with it. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't consider, sometimes we do things that are impulsive, and we're really going to do impulsive things when we're in emotions, when we're in our emotions. We all have done it. We all have. So I certainly am not going to think or say anything about these young girls who cried out this way. I, as an adult, have cried out that way. I have. I get it. Because not saying anything, allowing people to think that everything is okay. And this person is doing things and being toxic, but also in the public eye, and as far as public opinion is, like they could do no wrong. It's an interesting place to be. I see we got Les Eccles here in the building. He says, maybe I'm missing something, but I'm confused how everything she said about these men is supposed to be true, but everything about her isn't. There is a lot going on here. Absolutely. And I don't want us to get into this whole men versus women thing. I don't, because we don't know. We're setting this right out of the gate. We do not know the whole story. We don't. We're listening to parts of it. But if you're gonna listen to some parts of it, and if we're gonna have a conversation, if this can lead us to a larger conversation, I'd like it to be that. I'm sure that there is some guilt on both sides of the party, but if you all saw the young girls and you heard what the young girls had to say, these kids are hurting. These kids are hurting very badly. I did not want to play any of that. I only played some clips from Kimora's because she is an adult woman and is out here. And I wanted to have some reference and some framework for this conversation as well. But you know that there are very toxic people in our families. And it's just not visible to everyone. People present themselves in a different way when they walk out of their front door. People are living in a house together and they're not even talking to each other and speaking to each other. That's family toxicity. You got married people who are not even sleeping in the same bedrooms, who don't even know how to communicate with each other. They've got a sense of toxicity. They don't relate to their children, their grandchildren, their stepchildren, their nieces. They don't relate to them well. But out in the streets, they do everything right. They look good. They go to church on Sunday morning. They praising God. But that's not what it looks like to the family members. That's not what it looks like to the kids. That's not what they experience. So let's stay here in that. We're not blaming. We're not saying anybody's completely right, but we do know that something is wrong. Something is wrong. Young people will not be crying out like this for no reason. They won't be. And just because a woman doesn't tell you every detail of what happened within the delusion of their marriage or relationship, doesn't mean that she's always wrong or right. And I get the point that a lot of men want to say that, you know, she's not exactly right. Some of the first thing that I've heard some men say, the first thing they bring up is the money. Like she's chasing a bag. And I get that. I get that. But these situations are happening outside of people who cannot chase a bag. This is happening with people who don't have a bag to chase. It's just that some people do not have good intentions. And they're not good people and they're toxic people. And that's what I'm talking about here. I see we got Gloria Anderson in the building. How are you doing, Miss Gloria? She says, hello, Miss Tonya. It is very hard dealing with toxic family members. We want to expose them, but we don't want to cause any rift between the family members. Toxicity in our family is always the same family members. It seems like it is always the same family members. You don't want to bring it up. You don't want to look like you're being vindictive or, you know, you're being spiteful. And people have no idea what you're putting up with. I see we got a comment here from Craig, and he says, I think the girls reached a breaking point where the public perception of Russell Simmons didn't line up with the reality of who he really is. Him not being a good dad, husband, or human. That very well could be it. I mean, we've seen lots of things that we could question going on in the public eye. And we tend to think that people who are of a fame or a certain financial level, we look at them in one way and we don't know the whole story. But you're right, his girls reached a breaking point. And I can understand where Kimora came in with telling her part, because her girls reached that breaking point. And then as a mother, it got her in her emotions and she had to respond that way. The girls responded in a way that was on social media. So it was out there like that. Now I'm a mother. I'm a mother. And I don't think you have to be a mother to understand what it's like to see your child hurt. That's going to put you in an emotional place. And if this person has not been 100%, what is being presented to the public is not 100%, then you say something, because the bag has been opened. I don't know that it's about money. I don't know, because I want to ask you guys, because you have toxic people in your family and millions of dollars are not in question. So how do you deal with those conflicts? And and a lot of people out here, as much as we like to talk about therapy, and I'm so happy that we are in a place within our culture of people that we are talking about therapy. But can we also be honest? Not everyone can afford therapy. So let's go there. Let's keep that real. So let's talk about the people who don't have the money to do this, the people who don't have the tools to do this, and how they go about dealing with their emotional well-being. I don't say it's a good idea. I have been there. I know what it's like. But they needed to vent. Was that the right place to vent? No. But where was the right place to vent? Where? I don't know. That was the decision they made within their emotion. They've lived out their whole life in front of the media. Everything looks one particular way. Their whole life in the media looks away. And they got fed up and had enough. And they said, okay, well, if this is how it looks in the media, and you know that young people, they grew up with this media. Media is in their hand. We've got to know that social media is media. We get a lot of our news and our content and our conversation and what we're talking about is coming from media, and social media is a part of that. In fact, I'd like to say that social media probably is the number one source of information right now. So young people use it. They don't have to have an interview with Gayle King, because they can go to their social media and just give you what they want to share and say what they need to say. Now, how you feel about it and what you do with it, that's going to be up to you. I only hope that we will use it to have a larger conversation. How you doing, Ann Lee? How are you, ma'am? Good to see you here. She says it is. Media is our main source of information right now. She said TikTok is like an encyclopedia. I agree with you here. I see we got Jarrell in the building. She said, as individuals functioning in many relationships, it is so important to be self-aware. If we're constantly doing a self-check, maybe we could better function in our relationships with others. You're right. That is up to us to do. But that doesn't mean that, and we know this, we know that toxic person is not doing that. So I don't care where you go and how big you're going to be. You can decide to get yourself together, get your life together. But that toxic person isn't. I know what it's like for, to allow the other person to tell their side of the story and to know that it is not true and to not say anything about it, to keep your head up, your shoulders back, your chest out. You raise your kids and you be who you want to be because you want to be an example to your children. I know what that is like. And there's a lot of people who know what that's like, male and female, because I don't want this conversation to get into this thing about, well, women this or men that, and women are after the money, and she's not telling all of the story. He has a side of the story. Yes, everybody has a side of the story, but let's talk about these kids who are so hurt and we hear them crying out. It has been going on so long, and this misperception of what their family life looks like took them to a boiling point. Well, that happens in poor homes too. That happens in homes that aren't millionaires too. That happens in your family too. Your family and my family. Your neighbors, my neighbors, people all around us. You don't know what's going on behind those closed doors. So I want us to keep that in mind. We've got to. I see Keep the Faith with Tori. She says, I'm grateful for people that truly see me and know my true character. And that's important. I got to agree with you here. That is important. It's important to know that you have some people around you who really know your character. Because when you go through divorces and breaking up homes and families like we're seeing these, with this particular issue and within our own issues, everybody kind of takes a side. Either you're going to be on a friend of the husband, or you're going to have been a friend of the wife. And he's going to tell his friend something, and she's going to tell her friend something, and then there's a truth somewhere in between. But I can't imagine that many people are going to be willing to own up to it. Say, you know what, I just messed the marriage up. No, they want to hold their face. Just going through the dynamics of a divorce and breaking up the family is already a hurtful thing. So I don't know if a guy's going to say, man, I just messed it up. He might say this, that, and the other. He might tell these untruths. And then you might have a woman can do the same thing. And then you might have that woman who just won't correct people from hearing things that have been said. Don't have nothing to say. You won't hear her saying anything bad about anything. You don't know. So you could be left to believe that whatever the partner said is correct. Ask me. I've heard a lot of things about myself post my divorce. I've heard lots of things. Trust me. I know. I see Jarrell here. She says, although self-development may not be accessible through therapy, maybe other resources like books or tools like journaling, where we can work towards being honest with who you truly are. Yeah, and that's why I feel like this is a conversation we should be having, because people might not be able to get therapy. But if they hear someone talking about, well, maybe you could journal this out. Maybe you could write your feelings down, because that is a way of expressing and getting some of that out of you. People don't know that if they haven't grown up around it. They won't know that if they haven't had that type of conversation, if they're not in conversation with people who do that. But if they come across this, or they come across someone who talked to them about journaling, yeah. If they come across someone who might say, well, maybe you should take a yoga class. This works for me to help me kind of clear and center my mind. That could work for them. And that's why conversation is important. That's why having someone that you can talk to is important. But when you're dealing with issues that are family issues, a lot of the time, you don't really know who you want to trust or talk to, because you're trying to hold that family image together. It's a difficult thing to deal with. It's a sticky situation, to say the very least. Because you're trying to maintain that privacy of your personal relationships. You know that sharing your family matters on social media is going to be crazy. You know that's sensitive information. You know that it's going to potentially damage, like it could potentially damage all of the relationships in your family. It could lead to further conflicts, further breakdown of communication. Because everybody's got this public perception, everybody's got this public judgment. And so that's where we walk. That's that fine line we walk of expressing that. So when you're talking about young people, they're not balancing all of that. They're not thinking about, okay, well, if I share this experience on social media, I need to remember that this is a much bigger audience and people are going to be talking. If I think they're talking about us now and we're always in the spotlight, they're going to have a whole lot of other opinions about us, a whole lot of other judgments about us. They're not thinking about the impact of that. They're dealing with their hurt. These girls are hurt. Hurt. That's why I said, I'm not playing anything from them. If you heard it, whatever. If you want to hear it, you know where it is. It's everywhere. Because sharing personal family issues on social media, this is going to have a long-lasting impact on them. It is. It is. But you also see what they have been going through. I see we got some people here in the comment. I want to get over here and see what you guys are talking about here. We got Craig here. He said, I don't deal with toxic people, period. I understand my triggers, so I've set hard boundaries and will not allow anyone to cross them. I dig it, man. But let's be honest. It took us a while and it takes us a while to get there. Now, I can't speak for you, but I can certainly speak for myself. It's not easy because some of these people in our family, you know, they some real fuckers. You know it's true. I got some. And they test every bit of my patience, every bit of my respect. They really cross every boundary. They're so manipulative. And manipulative people are hard to flee. You must plan your exit to a T. And they make you think, who's going to believe me? Because this fool cons everybody. Got everybody thinking that he all that. A good mate, a good father, a good provider. But you don't feel what it looks like because you know that he's a liar. A liar with his pants on fire, promiscuous to the end, dragging me down and shaming my grace. This brother was never my friend. This brother was a user, an abuser. He played victim with excuses. But see, I got no scars on the outside because he broke me without bruises. And that's from a poem. That's just a piece of a poem that I wrote called Sucker. I know. See, I wrote mine out. Poetry, when you see me with these shirts on saying poetry saved my life, poetry saved my life. Saved my soul. For real, for real. So writing helps. Journal these things out. People at the ages that you and I are at now, Craig, yeah, we know how to set those boundaries. But I didn't know how to do that at 20. And even in my 40s. There were press. I had a time here not so long ago when you guys knew that I was dealing with my stepmother. You guys know about that I was just pushed beyond. And I'm very well respectful. I clearly know how to communicate. I went there. I used every communication skill that I had. But some people are not going to respond to you being the bigger person. I just want you guys to know that. So if you haven't experienced that, I want to say, great. I'm glad that you haven't. I'm glad that someone who could be so incredibly manipulative in your life and in your face and towards other family members, I'm glad you don't know that. I do. I wish I didn't. I really wish I didn't. I love being able to work something out. I don't mind having a difficult conversation. I don't mind you coming to me and telling me what you don't like. In fact, I want to know if I've done something and if I've not been able to communicate in the best way with you. I want you to let me know that. But when you are misrepresenting me, misrepresenting yourself, and then I've been carrying this face and I've been out here and I haven't, exposed really who you are, that thing starts to eat you up on the inside. I see we got Amina here. She says, oh, yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens in our family, stays in our family. That's what happens when we say what goes on in this house stays in this house, right? It's detrimental, but in order to get healed, you have to get out what hurt you. And you can't care so much about image. You're right, Amina. Sometimes you just got to get out what is hurting you. And you can't care about image. And clearly, because this is a family who knows image. They know image. They know media. These girls know this. Not only do they know that, but they're also well educated, Harvard grads, in the fashion industry. They know the lights, cameras, action, all of that. But none of that means anything when you've got something inside of you that is hurting you so much and it's within your family. The toxicity is in your family, is running through your veins. What do you do with that in your 20s? What do you do with that? What do you do? See, we got Keep the Faith with Tori. She said, it's very hurtful. I don't say anything and allow people to think what they want. Absolutely. Well, see, that is what we're talking about. And for so many years, they have done that. They have done that. You even hear the hurt in Kimora, whether you want to say that she's telling all of the truth or whatever the case may be, you deal with that yourself. Okay. But let's just say that a part of her truth for the sake of conversation so that we don't get into a men versus women war, so that we can have some empathy for a person who is really hurting right now. Because if you hurt my children, I don't care if you're their father or not, I'm going to be very pissed off. I'm going to be very hurt. I'm going to be very emotional. I don't know necessarily how I will deal with it. And if you guys can say that you're going to think about it in a rational way, well, good for you. You might be a little bit bigger than a whole lot more people that you're seeing out here. I see Tora said, whew, that poem. Well, that was just a piece of the poem. That was just a little piece. Tori also says, I journal. That's important. Writing is so very important. You got to read and you got to write because you're going to know that you're not the only person who has been through a lot of these things. And then if you can write it and begin to express it, that can take some of the edge off of it. I think that will help. Always helpful. I see Craig Boatwright. He says, yes, I've been there. I miss events because I didn't want to have to deal with those toxic individuals. And I realized I was missing out because of an asshole. I would get anxiety attacks thinking about it. I made the decision and I said, no more. You're right. I did the same thing, man. I did the same thing. I just had to let people say what they wanted to say. I had to let people think what they wanted to think. And I just had to know my truth. Because the truth is this also. I do know that when people are hurt, that they're going to hurt people. So all of the things or lies that were told, I couldn't even really get mad about it. I couldn't because I knew that it was coming from a hurtful place. And I knew that I had a bigger job in raising my kids and in continuing my life than to worry about a reputation or someone trying to ruin a a reputation, because if you believe it, then you believe it. And if you know me, then you knew me. And so I had to get to that point. I also see Craig here. He says, let me back up. If it takes going to social to vent, then you do what you got to do. No one can tell you how to heal. Respect, man. I respect that. I respect you saying that, because it was something that I didn't think I would do. And like I said, I was a full grown ass adult. And it wasn't in the great detail that these young girls did, but in its own way, it still was that. And that's why I can relate to this story so much. And that's why this story hurts me in a whole lot of ways. It hurts me as a daughter, and it hurts me as a mother. I understand so much about this story. And if we're all being honest with ourselves, there's someone in our life, there's someone that you know who deals with this. And young people are so involved in this media. This is a part of their life. This is a part of their everyday life. So I see how it happened. And as their mother, I see how she used that same tool that they used, because it was out there. And she too was hurt. I'm not calling anybody innocent, but I know this is not these kids' fault. I know that. Now the adults can be assholes to each other if that's what they want to do. It could be he said, she said, whatever the case may be. But see, when it comes to these kids, they don't even have to be mine for me to understand and for me to care and for me to feel a particular way. I don't like it. I see a minute here. She says, I still deal with toxic people, family, but boundaries have helped me to protect myself and how I interact with them. The level of access is different and limited because they don't value or deserve unrestricted access to me. For me, boundaries aren't to keep people out, but to show them the proper way to enter and exit the spaces of myself I allow them to. That's great. And we all want to reach a place like that. But see, we don't reach that automatically. It's these same hurts. It's the same levels of this type of hurt. It's the same level of this type of toxicity that allows you to grow to these particular points. I do hope that they will get the help that they need, and I think that they will. But I think we can all put some positive energy and vibrations and prayers in the air for them, that they will get that help. Now, the adults are going to have to do what they do. They're going to have to deal with it, how they're going to deal with it, legally, personally. But as parents, you'd like to think that they're going to do what's right for the kids. But I'm going to tell you guys something. You know that doesn't always happen. Doesn't always happen. We want people to be the bigger man, the bigger woman, and guess what? They're just not. That's not who they are. They really are creepy people. They are really creepy people. And I think we're giving them like a pass by saying they have toxic traits. They're more than toxic. They're straight up creepy people. They are really jerks out here. Men and women. Fathers, stepmothers, cousins, brothers, ex-best friends, ex-husbands, ex-wives. You know somebody who fits that category in your life. This is not a story that is so far removed from us that we can't understand this. You can't say that this is about a bag. It disturbs me when people are saying this is about a bag. Anything that happens in their life is going to deal with some level of money because they're wealthy people. It's more than that. And we can learn something from this. Take the money away. Strip all of the money away. Because with all of the money that they have access to, with all of the money that these people have access to, it didn't stop them from being right here. They didn't have to have a dime to be going through this bullshit that they're going through right now. It looks low class. It looks classless. But see, money doesn't make you have a better life. Money doesn't make you a better person. You have to make the decision to be that. Money isn't going to make you a better parent because you can provide them with a better education or provide them with things in life. You can still be a horrible dad. You can still be a horrible mother. You can be a horrible grandmother. You could be a horrible stepmother. You could be a horrible stepfather. You can be a horrible wife, husband. And somebody goes out that front door and doesn't expose you. And they know that they know that they have to walk back through that door to someone who is horrible. And people do it every day. Every single day, people are doing that. These people are out here sitting in church, making donations, working for the community, giving to charities. And they were fucked up people to their own family members or a particular family member because they don't do it to everyone. They're not going to be, no one is horrible to everyone. The same way no one is good to everyone. But let's be real. Let's have the real conversation. Let's ask ourselves why these babies cried out like this on social media. Because they're smart. These girls have been exposed to so many worldly things. They speak different languages. Listen. They knew what they were doing, but they were hurt. This ain't about money, y'all. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear nobody talk about Kimora is chasing a bag. She don't look like she broke to me at all. And the kids don't either. I see we got Craig here with a comment. He said, all you need to know about Russell is letting it get this far with his kids. Her father is looked up upon as a protector. Maybe your kids feel safe and secure. Shield them from the bullshit. Instead, he has put his kids in the middle of whatever is going on between him and the mother. Exactly. I feel that way too. I mean, if you divorce someone, if you guys decide not to talk to each other again, I don't have a problem with that. But if you got kids, you need to work that out with the kids. And then these kids are young adults. So there doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship between Russell and Kimora per se. But for the longest time, they would be in the public eye together, representing, family, representing getting along. But your kids don't cry out like that if you were a good father. I'm sorry. If you want to know what type of tree it is, look at the fruit. If you want to know what kind of tree it is, look at the fruit. These babies are damaged. That's a damaged tree. You dig what I'm saying? Not being judgmental. We're not. We're being real here. We're having a conversation because it's a conversation that we need to be having with ourselves, with those people that you may need to have a conversation with. Maybe it will will force you, well, I won't say force you, maybe it will wake you to understand that, you know what, I need to deal with this. I don't want this to keep festering in me. I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want to have to cry out in a way that becomes hurtful to a whole lot of other people, or just put it out there in a way that I really don't want my family represented. But the fact of the matter is, it could be true. Could be true. It's rough, y'all. It's rough out here. It is. You know what? We've had the conversation. I think we know that we've got a lot of work to do with ourselves. I think we need to identify who those toxic people are in our lives. Like a lot of people have commented, we need to determine our boundaries. And we've got to decide to do that for our own emotional and mental and physical well-being. Find ways to communicate clearly. It's tough. It's tough to be firm. It gets tough to be respectful, and it's hard to communicate with people who are just manipulative. It sounds, everything that we're talking about, setting those boundaries and expressing yourself, all of that sounds good. But when you're dealing with someone who is just not rational, who is manipulative, that's easier said than done. I see we got Genesis here. She says, can we speak on he married her at 16 is an issue that should be addressed also? Yeah, she spoke of that herself. And I think a lot of us forget that. I think a lot of us forget that she was a very young bride, very, very young. And I think that in itself says a lot. It does. And if we want to look at that, you can look at that. And I think that's a conversation that we could probably have if you like to have it. It came kind of late within our conversation here today because we're about to wrap up, but a lot of people did forget about that. Literally, a young girl. So you think about that person who married that young girl and look at where and how his children chose to react. I think it says a lot about the tree. I think it says a lot. I'm just here to create some type of awareness. I really am. These girls needed to vent. They needed to vent. So horrible and so heartbreaking to hear it, to see it. But we know it going on around us. So let us pay attention to those who are around us. And then sometimes we need to be paying attention to some of those people who we really know that they're toxic. They're talking about their baby mamas. They're not being the best of fathers. Well, guys, hold your buddies up to a higher standard. And women, you do the same thing too. Hold your girls up to a standard and say, hey, don't make it so difficult for this man to see his children or whatever the case may be. We've got some things that we can be doing. We do. On both sides. We're not against each other. We're trying to raise healthy children. And something in this situation is not healthy. A whole lot is not healthy. Craig here says, I think it is the root of the problem for Russell. Could be. Could be. I don't know. But if you're doing all this yoga and meditation practices and You don't have the calm and to deal with your own children. I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm just saying. I'm not judging. I'm just saying. I see Genesis here. She says, I say this all the time. Lots of single moms don't give the single father due credit. Sometimes it takes the children getting older to see daddy was helping too. You're right. That happens. They have to grow older to see. And that is very much the reverse. We're gonna make this thing equal. We're not getting ready to judge or make any side better or worse than the other, because these are young women right now. And now you're hearing their story. So they did grow up. And so now you're hearing, right? You're hearing what these girls think right now because they're young women. I see Kimberly St. Clair. She says, whether or not I'm privy to the entire story, I'm going to advocate for the kid. Grown people can fend for themselves. Kids go through a lot before they really start to cry out and act out. You know what? I agree. And I think if we take nothing else from this conversation, if you guys are going to be out here hearing the story, if you're going to gossip about the story, be judgy about this, let us take this last comment. This is the last comment I'm going to read here. We're going to close here for today. I'm going to read this again from Kimberly St. Clair. She says, whether or not I'm privy to the entire story, I'm going to advocate for the kid. Grown people can fend for themselves. Kids go through a lot before they really start to cry out and act out. And that's the bottom line, guys. That's the bottom line. And we've got to be honest about that. All right? Let's be better people. We got kids out here we got to raise. Let's be better people. Be better people to each other. Everybody wants to be in love and or have a partner. We don't want to break up. That isn't the idea of it. But I do want to say this. Not every relationship works out. But if we could just learn that is okay, if we could just learn to break up, can we break up? Can we learn to break up? Do you have to really ruin a person because you're no longer in a relationship with them? Did you really love a person if your choice is to ruin them? You got to ask yourself that. That's why none of you who know me personally, and there's a few of you on here who do, that's why none of you have ever heard me say anything bad about anyone that I've broken up with. You don't have that receipt. I'm sorry. You don't have it. Because I don't see the purpose of that. Learn how to break up, people. It's okay to break up. We can't be out here ruining children's lives. It's sad, man. We're going to be better people because we can be better people. Let's breathe out of here, guys. This has been a heavy, heavy conversation. Let's breathe out. Let's do some breath work. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. Hold that a few seconds. Inhale again. Hold a few seconds. Exhale. And hold that a few seconds. Inhale one more time. Hold a few seconds. And exhale. Yeah. And don't you feel great? I feel great. I appreciate you guys. And if nobody gave you a smile today, if nobody smiled today, you just close your eyes and give yourself a big smile and see how that feels for you. Right? Y'all be great out here. That's what we do. One love, y'all.